Going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today we're just gonna talk about the Atlanta Falcons offseason strategy so far. What we like about it, what we don't like about it. We'll talk about a signing. Atlanta Falcons signed their first defensive player on free agency today. We'll talk about the cap situation. We'll talk about some mock draft that I did. Only did the first four picks, of course. Um, and then we'll talk about some available free agents that's still out there where the Falcons can potentially add to this roster before they decide to go into the free agency period. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit the notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So first of all, I want to say, like I said, the Atlanta Falcons did sign Contavious Street. That's the guy they traded for from the Philadelphia Eagles last year when Grady Jerry went down. He was actually playing really good for the Atlanta Falcons before he went down himself. Atlanta Falcons had a lot of injuries last year, and honestly, if you think about it, from a defensive standpoint, if some of those guys don't go down, like Grady Jarrett, even a Contavious Street, if David Amiyata don't start having the ankle issues that he had, maybe the Atlanta Falcons might make it in the playoffs anyway, and we might have a whole different conversation this offseason about the Atlanta Falcons, the way they look, right? But we know how it turns. That is, you have to be lucky in the NFL to be able to, you know, win and go far. And sometimes it just does not work out like that. Whoever thought that Grady Jarrett would go down? Um, he finally got his running mate, David Amiyata, beside him. The defense was playing at a high level. Then, like I said, Contavious go down. So we just could never get to where we wanted to be from a health standpoint of defense. However, defense still played well. Um, Moments were killed our defense last year. The moments. That's really what happened. Couldn't get out the field in the biggest moments, right? Some games where our offense, miraculously took the lead because it was anemic last year from an offensive standpoint. But a lot of games, the offense did have a lead, and our defense surrendered the lead, and we lost the game. So we got to, you know, play better on defense, especially in the moment, because I think the moments would hurt us the most from a defense standpoint. But Contavious Street coming back, adding to that defensive line, depth position. So I think it's a great signing. You add him to the mix where you bring back Nate Landman, already the guy that you brought back from the defensive who played really well for us. Troy Anderson coming back as well. So you know the defense already looking better from where it ended off last season because some of these guys are coming back. Grady Jarrett's be coming back as well. So you add those guys, back to the team where we was already playing at a high level. You already see some improvements, hopefully, from this defense. However, it has been a little underwhelming from what the Atlanta Falcons have done so far from a defensive standpoint in free agency, and that's where we have the most issues. We got Eddie Williams. What's going on, Eddie? How many Super Bowls have the Falcons won? We got time for jokes. We had time for jokes. They won just as many Super Bowls as the Cowboys won in the last 27 seasons. So that's how many Super Bowls they won, right? So since you have jokes, so that's how many Super Bowls that the Falcons won. Just as many the Cowboys won in the last 27 seasons, right? So, right. How many NFC Championship games have the Cowboys been to? I'm not getting into the Cowboys Falcons debate with you, Eddie. So let's not go there. But back to the Atlanta Falcons. We talk about the Atlanta Falcons. We want to be able to see some improvement on the defensive side of the ball. Right now, it looks like the Atlanta Falcons, they did opposite of what they did last year. Last year, they went heavy, really heavy on the defensive side of the ball during free agency, right? Because they really had a lot of talent already on the offensive side of the ball. If you look at the young talent that we had, We already had a Drake London. We had Kyle Pitts coming back from an injury standpoint, and then when you think about what we heard, Kyle Pitts was still lingering around just a little bit, so he wasn't back to full potential. We anticipate him to be back, to full potential this year, and hopefully we'll see a better version of Kyle Pitts back to his rookie season, where he went over 1,000 yards, was an All Pro, was a Pro Bowler in that season. So hopefully we can see that, Kyle Pitts back to that form. That would be really great for our team, for the Atlanta Falcons. But the Atlanta Falcons kind of switched it up this year. They went offense. So we talk about the offense, the offseason strategy for the Atlanta Falcons this year. It went completely offense, and it kind of seemed like they kind of overcompensated a little bit by the moves they have made so far. We all talked about it all offseason. Was the number one thing they had to get the quarterback position right. After you're looking at the landscape of the NFL and what was transpiring through free agency, the quarterback carousel that we have seen so far, it seems like the Atlanta Falcons got the most consistent quarterback that was on the market, right? Now, if you want to say long term, if you go younger guy or something like that, the most upside, I could have that argument with you. But if you want to talk about the guy that has the most consistency, probably the best quarterback that was on the market, probably was Kirk Cousins, not barring his injury, situation that we have. Hopefully, he can come back from injury. According to him, listen to the doctors after his surgery that he had in November. You put 9 months, that puts you back to August 1st, right? That's right at the start of training camp. That would be perfect for Kirk Cousins to be back, where he can actually start to get into, practice time. Training camp is really going to be important for the Atlanta Falcons this year, especially getting both schemes down, because we do have a new offense and defensive coordinator. So training camp is really going to be important. Kirk Cousins already mentioned that he was already doing drop back, so seems like he won't have, any issues doing the 7-on-7 drills and things like that. However, being able to maneuver through the pocket, being able to do how he utilized the pocket, stepping up in the pocket. If you go back and look at a lot of Kirk Cousins' movement in the pockets, it's not a whole lot of dancing around, but he does move his feet enough to set around and throw. He always looking to throw the ball, which is a good thing. He's not looking to escape and things like that. Keeps his eyes down, and he will stand in the pocket and take a hit. So you do have to respect that. He's going to get that ball out. He's going to be a gunslinger. He's going to get the ball in his playmaker hand. He's going to be the ultimate point guard. That's what you want to see from Kirk Cousins. We got to come in here from Bro Sides. They have two Super Bowl appearances within 27 years. Cowboys haven't. Exactly. I'm glad you threw that out there. Who you say our first pick will be? Glad you asked that, EQ. We're going to talk about my mock draft. I did 4 picks so far. If you go look on Twitter, my Twitter page, I actually did a whole entire mock draft. But I only did 4 picks, and I'm going to share that with you guys towards the end. So just wait for this. If we were smart, their first pick would be a franchise D lineman or a linebacker. You might be on to something, Eddie. You might be on to something. I agree with you on that. Jared Verse or Joe Alt. Latu has a strong possibility. He had a great pro day. If you go look at Layatu Atu pro day that he had today. Sometimes I think it was today. He looked really good, looked strong. I think the injury concern is going to drop him down the draft board just a little bit. So that could be a concern, but he was the best defensive player in the Pac-12 this year. I love his motor. I love the way he gets out to the ball. He has the ability to drop in coverage. If you go back and look at one of my videos where I highlighted him along with the other top 2 pass rushers, and Dallas Turner and Jared Verse as well, you'll see, the ability, what I think about Layatu Atu. But however, we'll just have to see what direction the Falcon go in this draft. a linebacker like the Cowboys have. Are you talking about of course Mr. Michael Parsons? You know, they got is a wrecker. I think that he wasn't utilized, the best way he probably could be utilized upon the Dallas Cowboys. He has to rush the passer. That's what he does. I understand, mixing up a little bit, but the, he's going to be most effective when he's getting after the quarterback, putting pressure on the quarterback because he's so dynamic when he does that. So um, that's the way. Hopefully, y'all know defensive coordinator Zimmer actually use Michael Parsons there. All right. So like I said, guys, defensive wide, the Atlanta Falcons have not really um made any moves. On the offense side of the ball, they went and got the quarterback that they needed. That's where they started at. They started with Kirk Cousins. Like I said, if he's healthy, he's gonna throw that ball around. That's what he does. This offense is gonna look completely different than it did last season because Arthur Smith is really focused on a lot of 21 personnel, a lot of 12 personnel, um, and you will see this offense on Zach Robinson probably a little bit more 11, probably a little bit more 12. We still will have 12 personnel with two tight ends, bringing in the Charlie Warner going to be that blocking tight end. You have Kyle Pitts out there. He'll do a lot of less blocking, probably more, being a receiver type tight end. But I can see a little bit more 12 and a little bit more 11 personnel. So when you're talking about 11, you look at the additions on the receiver front that the Atlanta Falcons brought in. Darnell Mooney, 4.3 speed, be able to stretch the field, to create the underneath routes for guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Also, we traded Desmond Ridder. We talked about that on my last video. And you bring in Rondale Moore, another guy who's 4.3, who actually had a really good college career, was really looking like he was going to have a breakout season about a couple of seasons ago before he did get hurt. Already had over 500 yards receiving in 8 games, but he took an injury. But being able to utilize Rondale Moore, putting these guys in position in space, that's what I hope Zach Robinson's able to do, be able to utilize these guys, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, being able to have Kyle Pitts and Drake London, in the middle of the field, utilizing their big bodies, being able to utilize them in the red zone as well. That's how you'll be able to take advantage and use these guys to their best of their abilities. Now, you notice I didn't even mention our running backs, right? And we have two dynamic running backs, and we got Bijan Robinson and we got Tyler Algier. So both of those guys will benefit from this passing game as well. I think the passing game will definitely probably open up that running game and open up those rushing lanes for Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Usually the Falcons over the last 3 seasons was more run first, create the play action, and open up the passing game. I think it's going to be a little bit reversed this year. It's going to be more passing, open up the running game, open up those running lanes for our dynamic running backs that we have. And I can see this offense definitely being explosive. Still be able to use Bijan out of the backfield as well because it's ability to catch the ball. He showed that skill set he had last year. So being able to use Bijan in that light definitely is another way that we can actually get these guys in space. The whole idea is one thing that Arthur Smith failed in last year was being able to get these guys the ball where they can make plays. Right? That's where it really boils down to. You don't take a guy number 4 overall, number 8 overall, 2 seasons in a row, and don't be able to utilize and get them the ball. I mean, it was some games last year where Drake London had 1 reception. That is unacceptable for your number 8 overall pick in the NFL. So that cannot happen. I don't see that happening. Long as Kirk Cousins come back, back to just the way he was last season before he went down with the Achilles injury. I think this Atlanta Falcons offense will be more explosive. So so far, the Atlanta Falcons have addressed a lot of issues that they had, on the offensive side of the ball. That offensive line is coming back. It was a top 5 offensive line last season. Um, so those guys will get one more year of continuity. They brought back the offensive line coach. So you would like to think that the offense could hit the ground running. Yes, it's going to be different terminology, but it is coming from that same tree that they just left with Arthur Smith. It's a little bit more Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and less a little what Arthur Smith did when he was with Tennessee. With that more utilizing a fullback. I think if you look at what Kyle Shanahan used, he uses fullback a lot. Arthur Smith uses the fullback a lot, but if you look at what Sean McVay does, you look at what where Kirk Cousins ran when he was in Minnesota, they do not use the fullback a lot. So that means Keith Smith, our fullback that we had the last 3 seasons, probably will not return. He's a free agent right now. We'll have to see what they decide to do with Keith Smith. But I believe that Keith Smith probably more than likely maybe won't return to this team because I don't see them using a lot of 21 personnel. Like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit more 12 and a little bit more 11. Eddie says Zach Robinson runs a balanced attack 100%. I do agree. I think you have to be balanced because if you're not balanced, you're not gonna utilize this offense to its best capability, which is utilizing your 2 dynamic running backs you got. We can't forget that Tyler Algier ran over 1,000 yards just 2 seasons ago. Bijan Robinson had over 1,500 yards, all-purpose yards last season. So you got to be able to run the ball. It's no doubt about that. I'm not saying that they're gonna stop running the ball. However, being able to get your playmakers the ball, guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts, will help the run game, I think, more because when teams don't think you can pass, like what they had last year, they don't think they're gonna stack the box and try to stop the run. But when they know you can pass, that's gonna line those boxes. That's gonna have them go more nickel, right? That line the box up, going more nickel because you're in more 11 personnel. Now you can utilize Bijan in the run game. You can utilize Tyler in the run game, which will have those like boxes. That's what you're trying to create because you know you have a quarterback back there that can throw that ball. So that's the mindset I'm thinking. Hopefully, if you're looking at what the Rams did last year, where Zach Robinson coming from, they kind of passed the ball a little bit too much for me. They started to run the ball a little bit more with Kyron Williams towards the end, and you see what that did. That catapulted them into the playoffs. But with Matthew Stafford, I still believe it was more 60-40 in the pass run game. And I want to see a little bit more 50-50 here with the Atlanta Falcons because you have those 2 dynamic running backs. So great point, Eddie mentioning that. Or move back a couple picks, take our edge, draft Trotter Jr., bump him to outside linebacker. We could see that. Eddie said Byron Murphy is a franchise D-line waiting to happen. Don't screw it up, Falcons. Yeah, definitely Byron Murphy is a big defensive tackle, especially with us moving to the 3-4. Definitely could see them pulling him off. If he's there in the second round, it's definitely a possibility that, but I don't know if he's going to make it that far. Just to be honest, I don't think he'll make it to the second round. So that is a good point about Brian Murphy. Before we get into the draft pick, the draft real quick that I did, I do want to talk about potential breakout candidate that we might have for the Atlanta Falcons this season. And I really believe that Drake London could be that guy. I really believe that Drake London could be the breakout guy. I'm not comparing him to Justin Jefferson because I think Justin Jefferson probably one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in NFL. But being able to get a quarterback, I think Drake London's been slept on just a little bit because he has not had good quarterback play his first 2 seasons, that he had in the NFL. Just has not. It's not been. But guess what? He has the most receptions for a rookie receiver in Atlanta Falcon history. Yes, and that includes Julio Jones. So he has the talent. He has the capability. Um, he has a better route runner than a lot of people will give him credit for. Um, when that ball's in the air, he's going to get the ball. That's the kind of player he is. And I believe with a guy like Kirk Cousins, delivering the ball to him, I believe he's going to have a breakout season. So be on the lookout for Drake London finally getting some of the recognition that he deserves, being the first receiver taken in the 2022 draft. Just want everybody to remind that he was the first guy receiver taken off the board in the 2022 draft, and he just not had the success that he should have because we had, think about it, Marcus Mariota the first season, right, and then he had a mixture of Des Ridder and Taylor Heineke in the second season, and I just reminded you guys, in some games he only had one reception. So I anticipate Drake London to have a breakout season this year because um, Kirk Cousins is going to be able to deliver him the ball, and he's going to be able to show off his skill set. Eddie said Ram wasn't run by Zach. He was a positional coach. He was the pass. He was the pass game coordinator for the Rams. That's what Zach Robinson was. So he was in charge of the pass game coordinator. That's what he did. He also worked with the quarterbacks um, as well, getting some of those guys work ready for game plans. If you go back a couple of seasons ago, he's actually the guy that got Baker Mayfield ready. Had got there on that Monday and played that Thursday night. Right, he helped simplify the game for Baker Mayfield, and the Rams actually won that game. So um, Zach Robinson has been with the team for a while, but last year he was the pass game coordinator for the Rams. So um, like I said, I think the passing game is going to be good. But that's why we kept Dwayne Leffert on. He's the run game coordinator to make sure our run game, that pass and that run mesh together with this offense. So I believe that it's a good chemistry between keeping somebody here that understand this offensive line and understand the run game that was already established with these Falcons, and then bringing a guy like Zach Robinson, who was the pass game coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams last year, bringing him in, bringing out a scheme set, and also bringing in a guy like Kirk Cousins in, who's already familiar with the passing concepts that from that Sean McVay tree that he just came from in Minnesota. So stand by. We'll see what it looks like. It's going to be different. It's not going to be Rams. It's not going to be Minnesota because we have different skill set of players here. So it's going to look different, but you want to see some of the similar things that you've seen from the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. Even something you might see from the Washington Redskins at the time when Kirk Cousins was there as well. Because remember, he did play for Kyle Shanahan back then, so he understands this system. Kirk Cousins pretty much been in this system his entire career. Eddie says, perfect. Drake is going to be the guy along with the tight end. This is who Kurt loves the most when it comes to offensive schemes. 100%. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. All right, guys, let me go ahead and pull up this mock draft that I did. So, guys, you're looking at the mock draft that I did. Like I said, I only did the first 4 picks, so don't know how the draft board is going to fall. But since the Atlanta Falcons have not picked a defensive player yet to try to fix that pass rush, I mean, we've been looking for Atlanta Falcons have been trying to get a pass rush for since John Abraham left the team. All right, we have not got a consistent pass rush, even though the Atlanta Falcons had 42 sacks last year. we still did not have one guy double-digit sacks, right? And then think about it: the older two guys on the team, and Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell, led the team in sacks at 6.5. So we got to be able to nail the pass rush position. I think the Atlanta Falcons go either one of those pass rushers, Jared Verse, Latu, Latu Atu, and then also um, Dallas Turner. They could go either way here, but I'm just gonna go with the guy um, that looks like the best athlete, the best freak that's out there. Got to run under 4.5 in the 40. Had over 15 tackles for a loss at Alabama. Um, able to set the edge. You can see that his ability to be able to play that 3-4 scheme that the Atlanta Falcons is going to under Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake. So I feel like the Atlanta Falcons definitely is going to go pass rusher this time, defense this time for the first time under the Terry Fontenot regime, and go defense instead of offense. Now, when I did this draft, I'm going to say this. When I did this draft, Malik Neighbors was still on the board. I'm just going to say it. Malik Neighbors was still on the board. And if we go to the tradition, what Terry Fontenot has been doing since he's been here, he's been going best player available, right? And I would say Malik Neighbors is the best player on the board at the time I made this pick. However, I went with what I think they're going to do. They're going to go defense for the first time, but I would not be surprised at all if they decide to take Malik Neighbors instead of Dallas Turner if Malik Neighbors is still on the board, because he's the best player on the board, and you're just giving Kirk Cousins more weapons to be able to put up more points. And Malik Neighbors has potentially to be another Justin Jefferson. I'm just saying it, right? I'm just being honest about it. He's probably one of the best players in the draft, and if he's there at number 8, and you decide how to pick him because you're going for need, and that's why I don't like the whole philosophy go for need in the draft. I think he should go best player available. So if Malik Neighbors on the board, in my opinion, they should go Malik Neighbors. But I picked Dallas Turner. If you look at pick 43, I picked Michael Penix Jr. because like I stated before, Kirk Cousins is 36 years old. I think they need a succession plan. So if they was going to go with Kirk Cousins, they need a succession plan. I think Michael Penix Jr. has the best, accuracy, the best deep ball in this draft class. His big concern is his health, right? But he was completely healthy his last 2 seasons in Washington. So I like picking Michael Penix Jr. here. I don't think he's going to actually get to the second round because I believe there's a lot of quarterback needy teams that's going to pick him. And if they're looking at what I looked at on film and they're not, too concerned about what the medical says, I think he's going to come off the board before this. But if not, I think it'd be a good idea for Atlanta Falcons to go ahead and pick Michael Penix Jr. Because remember, I know everybody looking at the 4 years that Kirk Cousins signed, but however, it's really on the 2-year deals. All the guarantee money is in the first 2 years, so they can actually get off under this. And you can let Michael Penix sit down and learn behind Kirk Cousins. I think they got similar playing styles. Michael Penix want to sit in the pocket. He want to deliver the ball down the field. He's not a guy that want to get out of the pocket. But learning behind a guy like Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, would be good. This could be a great succession plan for Michael Penix. Now, if they wanted to move back up in the first round where they can get that fifth year option, they could go ahead and do that. Then they can actually have him sit for an extra year, right? But Michael Penix Jr., in my opinion, if he's there, I think the Atlanta Falcons should take him. At 74, Xavier Legette, I think it's just a beast, man. Kind of remind me of Deebo Samuel. It's a big body receiver, guy that they could actually utilize. So I like going to get a guy like this. You want to add another weapon. So if they pick Dallas Turner here at number 8 and they pass on them, just say if Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze is still on the board and they decide to go defense, number 8, they can come back in the third round and still get a good solid receiver because this draft is really deep in receivers. So I don't see a problem with them doing that. So if they go receiver, in the third round, and if Leggett is still on the board, go run that card up because this guy is gonna be a monster. Like I said, he has the same kind of body build as like a guy like Debo Samuel. Guess what? Debo played for South Carolina, so it just fits that. And then last, I had to go back defense. I went Brandon Fisk, defensive tackle. If you look at his athletic score that he had, really stands out. A guy that they could utilize to bring in to learn behind a guy like Grady Jarrett, David Yada. So those are kind of guys, in my opinion, if they want to go that route, that's what they can do. But Atlanta Falcons definitely did address defense. I came and picked the quarterback. I know we just spent all that money on Kirk Cousins, but you have to have a succession plan because he's a little long in the tooth. Let's be honest. So Michael Penix Jr. is on the board. Pull him. You can have him learn behind Kirk Cousins for a couple of seasons, and you don't have to rush, his progression into the NFL. You can have him learn that way. Um, get another receiver because this is a deep, deep receiver class. You want to be able to take advantage of that, and then go back and get you another defensive tackle to go along with, the other two studs that you already got there. Right? We just signed Contavious Street today, bringing him back in. You get Brandon Fisk, you got Grady Jarrett, you got David Amiyata, right? Now you got a four-man rotation to bring in to be those big bodies in the middle, right? You running at 3-4. That's what you at. We still got other guys, you know, that we could potentially get in free agency. We're gonna talk about that in just a minute, but right now, this is where I like the draft can go any other ways. I know that Eddie mentioned Brian Murphy. He was not on the board when I did this draft. If he was there, I'm probably taking him off, and because I don't believe Michael Penix Jr. is going to be there, and that's the fascinating thing about this draft because if you look at certain positions like receiver, how deep it is, the offensive lineman, how deep it is with offensive linemen, quarterbacks. We know quarterbacks always get um, elevated in the draft, right? So I can anticipate, believe it or not, I can see 6 quarterbacks going in the first round, and that's crazy to say, but if that happens that means a lot of talented players going to drop to the second round, which is going to bode well for the Atlanta Falcons at 43. So be on the lookout for that um, because the class is really deep in O-line receivers, and the quarterback's just going to get bumped up anyway. And if that's the case, it's going to move a lot of talented players to the second round. Like I said, if you go on Twitter, I had a completely different draft. Um, I think I still went Dallas Turner, but then I went on receiver in the second round instead of Michael Penix Jr. So it's so many different ways they can go here. Um, the crazy part about it is we don't know. We just have to wait to see. That's that's the exciting thing about the draft. We don't know how it's going to turn out. We're going to know who's going to move up. Will New England stay at 3? I think it's safe to say that Chicago is definitely drafting a quarterback now. It's probably Caleb Williams. They could go with Jaden Daniels, but I doubt it. Then if that's the case, I think the Washington Commanders going to take Jaden Daniels there. And then the question is New England going to go ahead and draft Drake May? They already got a bridge quarterback there and Jacoby Brissett, so they don't have to play whoever they draft there right away. Um, but I always say if you're that high in the draft, and if it's a quarterback on the board that got potential, you probably want to go ahead and take him. And the fact that they already got a bridge there, they don't have to play him right away. He can sit behind Jacoby Brissett for a year while the New England Patriots build back up their team. So I don't think they're moving out that spot, which leaves the New York Giants what they want to do with Daniel Jones, even because they paid him $40 million there. The Minnesota Vikings got extra draft capital, right? Because they traded with the Houston Texans. So will they come up and try to jump the Giants maybe to take a JJ McCarthy here? We don't know. So that's the case. If 4 quarterbacks come off the board on the first 4 picks, right? think about those receivers I was just talking about. One of those receivers would definitely be there at number 8 for the Atlanta Falcons. And I mean, we talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., Roman Doomsday, and Malik Neighbors. If those guys are on the board at number 8, I can't see the Falcons passing up on one of those guys because we talking about guys like Jamar Chase, right? Jester Jefferson. Those are guys we're already trying to compare these guys to. Those guys can change the dynamic of your whole offense. And if you add a guy like that who's on this rookie contract to a Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, just imagine how you know dynamic that offense can be when you got a quarterback that can pass the ball. So don't put it past. Do not put it past them. If the draft fall a crazy way and one of those guys are there, yes, we need a pass rush, no doubt about it. And the pass rush class is not as deep as receiver, right? Because that's would be the logic for passing up on those guys. Go ahead and get your pass rush, and you still get a good receiver in the second round. But if one of those guys on the board, man, it'd be hard pressed to pass on one of those guys. So that's what I'm thinking. EQ say Turner. Michael say that will be the same draft. It would be Falcon Scout or already focused on solely defense and depth. You might be right. They got a defensive minded coach. So I'm just spitballing here. It seems that way because they went totally offense in free agency. So it does seem like they're going to focus on defense. I agree with you on that. But remember, right, you drafting, and I think Ozzie Newsome said this, right? You always get the best player on the board, man. That's what you do. You just have to figure out what to do with him. You don't never draft for need, right? Because you don't want to reach, right? So if you stack your board, right, and if it's a guy on your board higher than the other guy that you think you want, man, you got to go get him. I'm sorry. So I get it. I get the going defense, but you giving up on a guy that because you draft in the first round, you're hoping you draft all pros, right? And you drafting potential Hall of Famers. That's what the first round is supposed to be. So why would you not take the best player when you got him there in your face? That's what I'm saying. So I get it. Focus on defense, but they got to be smarter than that. And we will be an average team again. Yes, if we don't do defense, I agree with you. Turner is a franchise linebacker. That's all I'm saying. Yes. God, if you pick Dallas Turner, it won't be a bad thing. I'm just saying that we don't know where they got these guys ranked on their board. I mean, last year, think about it. Everybody was talking about Jalen Carter, right? Jalen Carter probably was the best player on the board to us, right? Because I thought definitely they was going Jaden Carter, right? But they felt that Bijan Robinson was higher on their board, right? And he could be the next guy, but we already know that the track record drafting a running back, in the top 10, right? It really hasn't panned out, especially the value of running backs right now. But I would argue that you probably can get a good running back for cheap, right? Because now you're looking at what running backs going for on their value is not going up. It's actually staying level where all the other positions going up. So Atlanta Falcons maybe can get Bijan Robinson for like 14, 15 million when this time comes up by paying a receiver 30 million, right? Because that's what Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, those guys at. So you got to really pick where you're going there. I trade with the Vikings for their 2 firsts, 11th, 23rd, and get our 8th. Right. That is a good idea. Now, so I did not do any trade backs in this mock draft. That's more likely where I think would be the smart thing for the Atlanta Falcons to do. And to what Eddie was talking about, focus on defense. So if we do move back, right, and so if the Vikings, for example, they want to move up and take one of these quarterbacks at number 8 because they're trying to jump a team, right? We could get that, move back and get that to the number 11. And guess what? One of those pass rushers still be on the board. So that is a great point. You said cornerback and safety too. Cornerbacks, there's only 3 cornerbacks that I would consider, maybe 2, only 2 that I would consider at number 8. That's Terrion Arnold and the young guy from I can't think his name. Only 2 cornerbacks that I would actually consider at number 8. So I get what you're saying, but safeties is no safeties in the first round for me. So if we go in safety, in my opinion, I would get a safety in day 2, maybe day 3. But I would not take any safety that early in the draft. He said I prefer Verse, if not Fisk. Those 2 have synergy on defense. Okay, I tell you one thing about Verse. His bull rush is ridiculous, man. The question is, can he develop more pass rush move? Because that bull rush not gonna rush against the best left tackles in the league, man. I'm just telling you right now, he got to develop. He is the most powerful guy, and he was on the freak list, when they was looking at guys that just a monster, right, coming out the draft. But he got to develop better pass rush moves. The reason I like Dallas Turner because of his freakish nature. He kind of reminds me. I'm not going to put him up, but I like his athletic ability to be able to do something like a Micah Parsons, right? His speed, his explosiveness, that he utilized when he was with the University of Alabama. So I that's why I want to go him, and I like to be able to use him in coverage as well. So that's why I'm going there. Wallace says, "What's going on, Wallace?" I think our first 3 picks is going to be defense. Yes, I talked about that early, and I think everybody, pretty much, having that same consensus that the Atlanta Falcons more than likely going to focus on the defense, and it seems that way because right now, they only made one move on defense. Well, one additional move, and actually it was a guy that we had on the roster last year, and Contavious Street. We brought back Lake Naman as well. That was underrated, addition back to the team. But you're correct; they have not did anything on defense. So it seems like the Atlanta Falcons will be focused on defense in this year's draft. The only problem I have with that is that you don't want to reach for defensive players. So if Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, they're going to change up the way they draft, right? And don't go BPA, because that's what they've been doing since Terry Fontenot's been here. It's going BPA. That's my only concern. Going defense and then happen to decide to settle for guys that you don't think they're high on your draft board. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying about the defense. But guys, that's my draft. I probably do 15 to 20 more mock drafts. We get closer. One thing about these mock drafts, it's computer generated from the first 7 picks, right? Because of some of the draft picks I did, they had Caleb Williams and Drake May still on the board at number 8. That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen in this year's draft. I don't see that happening at all. So that's why you can't trust the computer generated drafts that's out there that's simulated, because it's so flawed, man. Like, you can't have 2 of the quarterbacks that everybody been talking about when you got 2 teams that definitely is going to pick a quarterback in the first 2 picks, and you still got Caleb Williams, Drake May at number 8. Now, I heard people saying that Drake May could fall, and that could be the case, but I just don't see him falling number 8, because if he falls past 6, I think somebody might move up. Somebody might move up to get him. So Wallace says, and I think we need a nose tackle, 3-4, Sweat, fill the hole in the pick six. You know what, Wallace, you're going to talk into an existence, man. I really believe you're going to talk Sweat into an existence because you've been talking about him since the start of the off season. And you're right. We need to get a defensive player. That's no doubts about it. I'm not disagreeing with none of you guys on that because I agree that the Atlanta Falcons, it's kind of weird in a way, be honest with you guys. The fact that how this offseason been. I understand the getting a quarterback, but it seemed like they overcompensated for the woes on the offensive side of the ball. And Raheem Morris being a defensive minded coach, feeling like he can get the guys that's already here to play at a level. I don't like that thought. Like, no, man, you need to add bodies. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they decide to do. So it's incomplete right now. You can't put a grade on the offseason because it's free agency still going on. Remember, free agency can go all the way up to you know basically to the start of the season, right? Even after cuts, guys will pick up guys, that's been cut from other teams. So free agencies will be going on until the start of the season. That's just the way it is. But the draft is still, lurking around. So this team is incomplete right now, incomplete grade for the offseason for the Falcons. But right now, defense is where I agree there's a lot of issues. And since we're talking about defense, we're going to look at some of the free agents that's still out there right now. And if you look at the edge, the cornerback, the secondary players that's still out there right now, right? Remember, we let our cornerback two. He went to the Texans on a 1-year deal, right? So right now we have Clark Phillips the third. We have Mike Hughes as our cornerback two. We still have AJ Terrell here as our quarterback one. But do we need to go get a veteran cornerback to come in? Clark Phillips played well last season, but remember he is on the short end. He's like me, right? Kind of short. So, but he's a dog, man. He played well last season. I love the way Clark Phillips plays. One thing about Clark Phillips is what's going to really help him. Last year, we was a lot of man coverage. Um, but if you go back and look what Clark Phillips was able to do with the Utah, he played a lot of zone, right? He plays very well in zone. So putting Clark Phillips back in zone coverage, which I think Jimmy Lake is going to run a little bit more than what we ran last year. So I like Clark Phillips a lot. Maybe they looking at Clark Phillips and think he can be cornerback too. If that's the case, they might not go out and bring another cornerback in. But right now, our cornerback room is not that deep. So if they don't add it in the free agency, they're definitely going to add it and in the draft. So be look out for that. But you see some of the guys here, Xavier Howard. Look at safeties. Look at Jamal Adams. You look at C.J. Jackson, guy who's signed all their money with the Chargers. Then they let him go. Justin Simmons, man, I would love to have Justin Simmons on this team. I just think Richard Grant, his coverage skill is not up to par. They picked on him last season. We lost 2 games, in my opinion, because Richard Grant couldn't cover tight ends. It's just that simple. The Arizona game, the Tampa Bay game the second time. Now, the first time, actually, Richard Grant got an interception on Baker Mayfield in Tampa, but I don't like his coverage skill. I think he's a great box safety. He come down, he's great tackler, but in coverage, I don't like it. Justin Simmons will be an upgrade if we decide to go there. I don't know what his asking price is. You got Eddie Jackson, you got Dory Jackson, cornerback, Stephon Gilmore, who's getting a little older there. Michael Hyde, with the Buffalo Bills safety, couldn't stay healthy himself. Patrick Peterson just got released from the Pittsburgh Steelers. How much left he got in the tank, right? So those are some of the secondary free agency guys that's still out there if the Atlanta Falcons want to add more depth to the secondary. Um, we do have, DeMarco Hellens played well for us last season at safety, so you potentially see him, you know, taking over that starting role because he was filling in for that towards the end of the season in for Richard Grant, right? So maybe they like the way DeMarco Hellens played. Cheap guy, if he can, improve his play. You love to see guys that have that jump from year one to year two. So that could be, it happens for him. That's why they might not want to go safety. But I still anticipate the Atlanta Falcons adding depth to their secondary at safety and at cornerback. So be on lookout for that. Now we're going to talk about some potential edge rushers that's still out there. There's still a lot of edge rushers out there. I know all the big name guys are off the board, and I know a lot of you guys was kind of upset because me included, right? But there's still a lot of pass rushers that's still out there. You got Emmanuel Akwa. He's still out there. You got Carl Lawson, Randy Gregory, Yannick Ngakoue. I can't believe he's still out there. A guy who's been around a lot of different teams, but he's a decent pass rusher that's still out there. Of course, we could bring Calais Campbell back, who would have to go to playing a DN on a 3-4, right? He kind of wanted to get away from that. That's why he liked to come to Atlanta, because in the 4-3 he was able to play in, but in this defense he'll be a 3-4 DN, so he still will be on the outside, but he'll have an outside linebacker on the outside being a pass rusher. So, but I would want Calais back just because having a veteran in the room. I like what he brought to the team last year. Like I said, he actually led the team in sacks, even though he's old. He still can get after the quarterback. Derek Barnett out there, Jerry Hughes, Bud Dupree, another guy who led the teams in sacks last year with Calais Campbell. Jadeveon Clowney's still out there. One name that you don't see on here is Chase Chase Young. You see that he signed with the New Orleans Saints today, so we have to deal with him all next season. I really, we're talking about cap space, and it's just amazing to me how the New Orleans Saints, man, can just keep signing guys, and they don't have cap space somehow. But they signed this guy to a $13 million fully guaranteed contract. That's amazing. So I don't want to hear people talking about cap issues and cap space and things like that, because somehow the New Orleans Saints keep bringing guys in and paying them. And when we started the offseason, they was like $80 million over the cap. So um, the cap is in my opinion a bunch of crap, because there's no way these guys could do that. I mean, they just keep moving guys' contracts to the right. I guess eventually the bill will come due, but they trying to stay competitive, right? They go get a guy and pay him $13 million. Atlanta Falcons definitely weren't going to pay that. Chase Young is not consistent enough, and I think that would have been an overpay for him. So, but the New Orleans Saints decided to do it. However, as you can see, still more guys that's out there that Atlanta Falcons go in to help booster up this pass rush. One interesting thing I do want to say about the guys that we already have on the team, if you look at guys like Armor Ebiketie, look at a guy like D'Angelo Malone, look at a guy like Lorenzo Carter, all those guys are tailor-made for going back to 3-4, right? Because a guy like Armor Ebiketie is a stand-up pass rusher. That's what he does. So it kind of goes back to what he does best. D'Angelo Malone, a guy that we picked in the third round, 2 seasons ago, we still don't know his capability. We know what he did at Western Kentucky. He kind of stayed in the backfield. I think he led the FBS in tackles for a loss, but we haven't got to see anything D'Angelo Malone was able to do. So, you're banking on some of these guys to start to hit for you in your draft class, guys like Armor Ebiketie, guys like a D'Angelo Malone. If that happens, right, you're not hurting as bad as you think, from a pass rush standpoint. But I do believe that Atlanta Falcons is going to add, um, to this room. They have to. You got to be able to create create a scenario where the pass rusher, they got to scheme for him and be worried about him, and that frees up your guys in the middle, guys like Grady, who's one of the best interior defense tackles, along with Dave Yada, right? If you be able to create that pressure on the outside, you know that alleviates guys from stepping up in the pocket, right? Because you got Yada, and you got a Jared there, a Grady Jarrett there to clog up that middle. So we want to be able to create that pass rush. Um, Hopefully, maybe Katie, who was a second round pick, starts to show some flash. He showed flashes, but it's not consistent enough. Going back to a 3-4, maybe definitely may help him out a whole lot. We definitely going to find out. But you can't give yourself, Dr. Pass Rusher, you can't get home and to the rush the passer. It's just not a good look. So that's where they're at. Let's see here. I think we already. Yeah, the mock drafts is just something for fun to do because the draft always totally different. 100%, 100%. However, guys, I always try every year to try to pick who the Falcons want to draft in the later rounds. Right, the first round is how the draft board fall. You kind of know who they're going to pick, but when it gets to those day 3 picks, right, you kind of follow the tea leaves and try to figure out who the Atlanta Falcons going to get. 2 years ago, I was able to guess Tyler Algier to the Falcons. Actually did a video on him. So we'll get to that. Hopefully, I can get lucky and pick again. You look at the fit, you look at the kind of character that Atlanta Falcons want to bring in, and you say, "Yep, that's who they're going to pick." But it's easy to pick those guys off top guys because they really good and everybody knows about them. So if they're on the board, like that's who they're going, and they need a guy there, so it's easy. EQ says, why does Clowney keep moving around so much? I thought he was good. He's a free agent. Yep, he's a free agent again because Clowney is all about the payday, man. He's looking for the most money he can get in a contract. I mean, that's what he get every year. He get a big 1-year deal with a team. But if you go look at what he did last year, he was really good for the Baltimore Ravens. So it's still some good quality draft, edge rushers out there. I just don't think that the Atlanta Falcons is going to overpay for any of those guys. So, and because they just don't do that, right? Like I said, if you look at going from, having 21 sacks and then having 42 with nobody being in double-digit sacks, that means they was able to create pressure, multitudes of ways with a lot of guys. And Atlanta Falcons do that again, right? You don't have to have one dominant guy. It would be really nice to finally get one of those guys here. But if you can't have that one guy, you can do it, all kind of ways. So maybe go get 2 guys that get you 6 sacks a year, and then that'll equal your 12 sacks. That's what you're trying to do. But they got to add to that room. It's no doubt about it. No way to sugarcoat it. So the strategy so far, to wrap this video up for today, if you're looking at what the Atlanta Falcons have done so far, right? They focused on the offense. All right. I think for the most part, they did everything they wanted to do so far, from an offensive standpoint. They went and filled one of the biggest needs that we had. We had only one receiver on the contract on the roster, and they go out and they bring in J.J. McLeod. They bring in a Rondell Moore. They bring in a Darnell Mooney, right? They bring back Cardell Hodge. So that wide receiver room where it had one now has 5 receivers, right? Anticipate them to bring more because it still is not top notch, where you're satisfied. You at least want your number one and number two to be somebody that you can really depend on. If you go look at Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney, their last couple of seasons had not been what you really wanted to see out your number two receivers, but they have the potential there. They're still young. If you look at a guy like Rondale Moore, he's only 24 years old. Darnell Mooney is going to his prime. He's 27. So they still have a potential to be good. But from an offensive standpoint, you feel like the Atlanta Falcons fix one of their biggest needs, and that's with their receiver room, right? Of course, we know they got the quarterback they wanted. If he's healthy, and you always have to say this, because it is what it is, right? He coming off Achilles injury. If he can come back healthy and get back to the form he played before he went down, you're going to have good quarterback play for the Atlanta Falcons this year. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, moving forward, what would the Atlanta Falcons do on the defensive side? I constantly said you don't want to see the Atlanta Falcons go down from what they did from one season to go. You want to see them actually improve, right? You want to see them being the top 12 to being in the top 10, right? That's what you want to see from our defense. And right now, it's incomplete. I'm just going to say that it's definitely incomplete. I mean, I believe in the coaching staff, and that's where I don't like. Maybe they believe in themselves too much. They can get some of these guys that has not lived up their potential to start playing at their potential. So that could be what they're thinking. Don't know, but we'll just have to see. The last thing I'm gonna say is the Atlanta Falcons cap space is it's a little interesting. Atlanta Falcons got about $3 to $4 million in cap space. They just signed Katavius Street, so it's probably less than that. Of course, we know they eventually they will have to make some moves to free up cap space. I mean, just to even sign their draft class. So you anticipate for some of these moves to start being made by the Atlanta Falcons moving forward. I still believe they're going to be able to come to agreement with AJ Terrell on his contract. That will actually create more cap space as well. I think right now he's got a $12 million cap hit. But they extend him. They can get that cap number all the way down to maybe $1 to $2 million for this 2024 season. So Atlanta Falcons have a lot of moves that they can make, to clear up more cap space. If you're looking at some of those free agents, they want to bring in any, so it's no problem. They could do that easily. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I just talked about it ain't signing freaking Chase to freaking $13 million guaranteed. And if they can do it, we can find cap space. So I'm not worried about it. We have a lot of guys that if you needed to restructure the contract, we could. But I think the biggest thing for Terry Fontenot is, don't want to get back in cap hell like we did, 3 seasons ago. So you're trying to keep the clean cap, right? If you look at most of these contracts that we signed, 2-year deals, right? You can get up enough under those contracts in 2 years if they don't work out, and you still have a clean cap. So it's being strategic. It's not like what we want to see. We want to see movement. We want to see this team starting to take shape, but it's just March, guys. Got a lot of time left. Still got April. Still got a draft, right? As long as Atlanta Falcons don't lose picks from this stupid tampering crap, right? We'll still have 8 picks in the draft, and they can build depth all over the team with those 8 picks. That's all I got. Last thing is Kirk Cousins has picked this number 18. We thought he was moving back to 8, the number he had since he been in high school. So it's going to be interesting to see Kirk Cousins wearing number 18. Kyle Pitts is going to keep number 8. So our new quarterback has this number. It's number 18. So let's see. Can he play like a Hall of Famer number 18 that's played for another team out there? That would be awesome, right? So that's all I got. Somebody said it. Somebody said it right here. Michael said Peyton was 18. That's what I mean. See, we here, man. You reading my mind, right? See, can he play like another 18, right? But we'll have to see. Kurt, let's go, man. Get back healthy. That's what we want to see, right? I mean, this guy throws the ball, right? And he throws the ball to guys. He's accurate with the ball. I love his deep ball accuracy. Um, I love the way he throws with anticipation. I love the way he moves in the pocket as well, right? I'm not talking about running around. I just love the way he moves in the pocket to look to throw the ball. So um, I can't wait to see, if he gets back healthy. Because I really want to see, I want to see Drake London and Kyle Pitts do what we all thought they could do when we drafted them at number 4 and number 8 overall. That's what I really want to see. All right, guys, that's all I have. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Listen to the show, Falcon off-season strategy so far. Um, be on the lookout. Be back on Wednesday. Talk more Falcons football. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.